Hello, my name is Kelly Anderson, and I will be talking about Paul Laurence Dunbar today. Paul Laurence Dunbar was born in Dayton, Ohio in 1872. He is well known for his poetry and is actually one of the first African American poets to gain national recognition from a very wide range of people, including both black and white audience. His poetry discussed and described the pre-emancipation South, which is the time and place in which his parents, Joshua and Matilda, grew up in and lived in. His parents both were enslaved individuals from Kentucky and managed to escape and make a life for themselves. They ended up sharing these stories with Dunbar, and these stories ended up motivating him to create poetry to share and express. Paul Laurence Dunbar went to Dayton Central High School. Not only was he the only African American student in his class, but he was also very popular and did very well in school. Actually, he was even elected president of his class and delivered his class graduation poem. However, he could not afford to attend college and struggled to find work outside of high school. He was therefore forced to accept a job as an elevator operator. Given these struggles and obstacles, he still did not give up hope on his dreams of becoming a writer and poet. In 1893, he took out a loan to fund the printing of his first book, Oak and Ivy. This work was known for his depiction of enslaved individuals. Dunbar attempted to add dimension to the characters and slaves in his history. Previous white writers had created stereotypes of slaves, and Dunbar sought out to reject them and to change them. He emphasized emotions of love, courage, amusement in the African Americans. Dunbar was constantly challenged by his audience. He wrote for both African Americans and whites. He addressed this difference in audience by appropriating the local color point of view in a folksy, nostalgic celebration of rural life and homey values. He attempted to express these authentic emotions and suffering in his work, but while also providing a balance of amusement and enjoyment for his readers. Dunbar's best-selling book is Lyrics of Lowly Life. Another famous work is the Ode to Ethiopia. This poem emphasizes his pride in his race and their progress towards freedom. He mentions in his poem, "No other race, when free again, forgot the past and proved them men, so noble and forgiving." This line really shows how proud he is in the African American race and their forgiveness for the past. Another one of his poems is Sympathy. Personally, this is my favorite poem. This poem is all about a caged bird. The poem states, "I know what the caged bird feels. I know why the caged bird beats his wing. I know why the caged bird sings." This poem is a giant metaphor of freedom. He's expressing the African American's lack of freedom. Still, his work reflects intense desire for self-expression. He also explains that this expression of African Americans is also often misheard as carol of joy and glee. An antebellum sermon is an example of one of his works written in African dialect. For me, this was actually pretty difficult to read. It says, "We is gathered here, my brothers, in this howling wilderness, for you to speak some words of comfort." But obviously, it sounds differently in the African dialect. But I really found the authenticity of this writing intriguing. Part of what made Dunbar's writing so famous is his double voice strategy. By using both the African dialect and standard English, he was able to target a bigger audience and therefore affect a larger group of people. However, many whites did not enjoy the poetry written in the black dialect. Later in Dunbar's life, he began doing reading tours. This led him to meet his future wife, Alice Ruth Moore. They later married in 1898. He also later earned an appointment to a clerkship in the U.S. Library of Congress. Between 1898 and 1905, he published 4 books consisting of short stories and 4 novels. These short stories spoke about the racial injustice in the South. His final book was The Sport of the Gods, which spoke about the disadvantages and advantages of migration from rural South to the urban North. Sadly, his life ended short and he died February 9, 1906. Dunbar accomplished a lot in his life. He was the first African American poet to gain national fame. He was able to express the suffering of the African American people, while also providing enjoyment and amusement for his readers. This fame was also very unexpected in a time of extreme white supremacy. Paul Laurence Dunbar affected a lot of people and altered some preconceived views and stereotypes of the African American people and brought together two separate audiences of both black and white.